Hi, my name is Lisa Bain. Welcome to Treasure Talks. I would love for you to take a moment to subscribe to our channel, click the doorbell so you get notifications about new videos and all of our content. It has been such a joy to meet some incredible heroes over the years through my nonprofit work. Our community is filled with heroes who have such incredible and miraculous stories. These stories need to be heard. I am so excited to introduce you to some superheroes in our community and share their stories. These heroes are an example of serving, stepping outside of their comfort zone, and walking out a truly miraculous story. They found treasure in the darkest days of their life, and they are using it to help others and bring hope to those in our community. Welcome to Treasure Talks, where you are going to have an opportunity to hear stories firsthand, meet these amazing heroes, and be so inspired. Every month, we will spotlight a new story as you meet these community heroes and we chat one-on-one. So stay tuned and be ready for encouragement and inspiration by these community treasures. It's time for Treasure Talks. I am so excited to introduce to you today an amazing lady that will touch your heart. In fact, the heart of her story is quite miraculous, literally. This is Shirleyanne Johnson. She was born in Texas, but in Oklahoma most of her life. Shirley is involved in ministry, in outreach with her therapy dog, Sarah Belle, who I adore. In fact, that's where I met you, Shirley, was through the therapy dogs. She and Sarah Belle were Tulsa Area United Way ambassadors. She's a founding member of the Tulsa Welcome Wagon at the Tulsa International Airport. And you will find Shirley and Sarah Belle bringing joy to those in hospice, hospitals, those facing addiction, those in support, crisis relief, the list goes on and on and on. You are everywhere. Shirley is a charter member of Trio, Oklahoma, which she will share about through her story. And here to share about her change of heart, literally, is my dear friend, Shirleyanne Johnson. I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, we talk about on my website about serve, step out, see miracles. I want to start with, you are a walking miracle. I mean, you are a walking miracle. Whew. Can you share with us a little about your story that kind of leads to that miracle part of things?
Oh, sure. Golly, Wally. So I became very sick in 2016. I had a widowmaker heart attack and didn't know that's what it was. Waited over 2 hours to go to the hospital. And when I got there, they were like, I can't believe she's alive. They put a stent in my heart and said, you're going to be right as rain in 30 days. Okay, that works for me. And within 30 days, I was back at work and I felt like garbage. I went home. They sent me home. And my neighbor who works for EMSA came over and she said, you're in congestive heart failure. We've got to get you to the hospital now.
Wow.
Okay. Wasn't what I planned. That's not what they told me. Told me I'd be better. Instead, I got worse. And I continued to get worse. They did everything they could. And I had a defibrillator. I had a pacemaker. You name it. I was taking it. It was just a downhill spiral. And the doctor came in October 12th, and he said, I don't have anything else in my toolbox. It's empty.
Wow.
That's kind of a gut punch. Okay. So he said, I do know a doctor that's got a bigger toolbox, and he's in Oklahoma City. So they were able to get me in to Oklahoma City, which was a miracle in and of itself because there were very few beds. And they arrived hot. I was starting to code again as I went in. It was 9:30 at night, and my dad was standing there. It was the worst moment of my life to see my 80-year-old dad watching his daughter die. And so what they did is they took me straight to CICU because there wasn't time to take me through the loops of emergency room. And they did triage right there in the room in front of my dad. It was
Wow.
it was amazing, and it was horrifying at the same time. And I was conscious through all this. And my dad's standing there trying to be so strong, and I'm an only child. His world was crashing as I crashed. So the next morning, they said, we're going to give you one more medication and see if that reverses what's going on. And I'm like, okay. And they gave it to me, and they said, we'll know in 45 minutes whether it's working or not. And I wasn't watching a clock. My husband was there with me. We were in Oklahoma City, and my nurse, Sarah, started kind of hovering. And the next thing I knew, I saw the brightest light I'd ever seen. And I came face to face with the Holy Spirit. And I was given a choice whether I was going to make things right or just go on and go to heaven, just quit. Because I'd been fighting the whole way.
Right.
My whole life I'd been fighting. And then I heard Sarah right up in my ear say, Shirleyanne, I'm not done with you yet. And I popped back. I'm like, okay, that's Sarah. I told her I would answer her if she called me by my given name. And I took a deep breath, and I looked over, and she was standing there with tears in her eyes. And my husband was just beside himself.
Yeah.
And they rushed me down to the cath lab. And at that point, they put me on life support. I already had a 3-prong, for no better word, catheter in the left side of my neck. They put a 5-prong in the right side of my neck. And then they ran a pump up through my leg into my heart, and it wrapped around my heart, and it kept my heart pumping.
Wow.
For the next 3 weeks.
So what was the prognosis then?
I had an EF, which is your ejection fraction of your heart. It's supposed to be anywhere from 50 to 75. Mine was a 9. My heart was dying.
So what did that mean?
That meant that I needed a heart or I was going to die.
So you were put on the heart transplant.
It took a week to be put on the list because you have to go through all of the paperwork. You have to go through a board review. There are, I believe it was 7 doctors that have to review your case and validate that you are, in fact, a legitimate need of recipient.
Right.
And Sarah came in and she said, you made it to the list. And I was like, yay. I said, but what do I do now? And she said, what do you mean? I said, somebody has to die for me to live. And she looked at me and she said, Shirley, God's will be done. Tell everyone you know that's what they pray. You already know what it is to die. So you're either going to die or you're going to get a heart. Those are your 2 choices. God's will be done.
Right. Wow. Wow. And you obviously got a heart.
I won the lottery.
Your miracle was you got a heart.
I did.
So tell me how that all came about, because that was amazing.
So 3 weeks later, my team was trying to figure out what they were going to do to keep me alive because I'd been on the life support a week longer than I was supposed to be, and they were going to have to change the direction of it. And the second heart came through. There was one heart that was rejected, and another one came in, and it was a Sunday morning. And one of my doctors came in and she said, so have they told you the news? And I said, no, what news are we talking about? And she said, they have a heart. Wow. And I said, really? Okay. And she said, however, full disclosure, it's a high-risk heart. And I said, well, what does that mean? She said, well, what it means is that the person who it's coming from was a drug addict. So we'll have to do further testing and ensure that the heart is good and that we can use it. And this was at 8:30 in the morning. And God just put it on me that I needed to just stay close to him and not tell anybody. I couldn't put my family through another disappointment. I felt like the biggest disappointment on the planet laying in that bed, much less, say, oh, another heart passes. And my daughter is an addict. So it rang so true to me that how ironic I would get an addict's heart, possibly. And at 11:30, they came in and they said, it's good. It's a good, strong heart. And we're going to do surgery at 3. And so I called DJ, and he had just gotten out of church. Just walked out the door, and I said, we got a heart. And it was wonderful because my prayer warriors were with him, and he was able to share it. And the big fight started, for let's get through this. And I said, there's no point in you being here as the surgery starts. It's going to be long. It's a 12-hour process. And he said, okay, well, when I get up in the morning, I'll feed the dogs, and then I'll head to Oklahoma City, and I'll be there when you wake up. And I said, that's great. No problem. Well, my surgery got backed up to midnight instead of 3. So I let him know, they've changed it to midnight. And he said, he got there at 6 o'clock. And he went in and he said, I'm looking for my wife. And they said, well, she's in recovery. He said, what do you mean she's in recovery? They said it was a 4-hour textbook surgery.
Wow.
Nothing went wrong.
Wow.
Only took 2 pints of blood.
Oh, my goodness.
I had 7 on the shelf because of friends that had donated. And that's when, we started working our way back.
Oh, boy. And I got to say, you constantly gave every step of the way. You were giving even when you were going through this. Talk about serving, stepping out, seeing miracles. Shirley, you were serving when you were getting a heart transplant.
I was crocheting for my nurses.
Yes, I know, right? So, here you are.
I couldn't sit up.
Yeah, I know.
Because of the way this heart pump works, you can only go to a 25-degree angle, and that's it. If you go 26, you're dead.
Wow.
Because it pinches off. And so I would lay there and crochet headbands and scarves, and it was winter. And I'm just handing stuff out. I had one of my nurses was pregnant. I'm like, here's a baby blanket.
Wow. I don't think I have a friend that more understands about the healing that happens when you serve, when you give. I can honestly say it's why I'm still walking, and it's why you're still here.
It is.
And to see the doors that opened after your heart transplant, even with Sarah Belle and animal therapy, can you kind of tell me about the animal therapy and how that what happened after your heart transplant? It came full circle with us even reconnecting. How did animal therapy get in that? Because that's another really big miracle that happened through all of this.
Yeah, it was. My partner at the time was Eli. Oh, and Eli. He's the one that we met.
Yes, yeah.
And when we met, I had Eli. He was with me for 10 years. He's just the most gentle giant that's ever walked the planet in my world. But he was diagnosed with cancer after I had my heart attack.
All happened like the same time, didn't it?
It was just, you get hit from every angle possible. And so one of our biggest blessings during that time was our neighbor Vicky would come over and she would medicate him. She would love on him. She took care of him. And we had another dog, Short Stuff, at the time. But she held the fires at bay at home. And Eli and I had worked all over. And we had been through Turn Tulsa Pink. We were still working at Cancer Treatment Centers of America. He was a miracle dog in and of himself. The things he did were just phenomenal. And it came to the point, it was time to let him go. And I was having difficulties with my vet locally. And so DJ brought him to Edmond to have my parents' vet see him. And we had made all the arrangements for him to come up to the hospital.
Yeah.
And my husband sent me a picture of him. And I said, take him to the vet now. Don't put him on hospital ground because he'll go to work.
Yes.
And he's so sick, I just can't have him go to work. And so I found out 5 days after getting a new heart that it could be as broken as the one before. Because my partner went to heaven.
Mr. Eli, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and little did you know what was following in the footsteps of Mr. Eli.
Yes,
But
Miss
sweet
Sarah Belle.
And you have to tell everyone, how did Sarah Belle get her name?
Sarah is named after Nurse Sarah, who is a Southern Belle. My daddy called her his Southern Belle, and he would actually waltz with her in the ICU halls when they were waiting on my test and things. And I told Sarah, I said, my next dog will be named after you.
And she's a special, special dog. So,
yes.
Animal therapy has been, that's how I met you.
Yes.
And talk about an outside of the box type of a thing that the Lord, that it just seems like that you have kicked that animal therapy into gear more than ever with your heart transplant.
Yes.
And I'm just amazed at the places that you go and the people's lives that are touched by the dogs. The barriers are broken with the dogs.
Absolutely.
And is there anything that you can share about the animal therapy? How do those kind of all go together? It just seems like that your heart transplant, after that, I just saw you more involved than ever in it. You had a passion I mean, you are like on fire, and you still are. I mean, and it's such a joy to be able to go with you and sit with you. And I have Mabel, and we go and eat together. And just the impact of you are such a testimony wherever you go. You're a light.
Thank you.
And how do you think animal therapy is healing for you?
It is healing for me. However, with what I have now experienced, and this is where it comes, strength step out, all of it, is that I had always wanted to spend more time in pet therapy, but my work wouldn't allow me to. I'm no longer allowed to work. So I'm able to focus on this. And I found with Eli what conduits the dogs were.
Right.
Eli, on his last night of testing to be registered, brought a man out of a catatonic state.
Wow.
And it was just insane to stand there and watch this dog work with this man, and the staff is shaking their heads no, and then the man leans over and says, "You understand, don't you, boy?"
Wow.
And there was just tears everywhere.
Miracles.
Yeah.
I mean, and those miracles, it's just unbelievable, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be watching today that they might even be on the transplant list, Shirley. People that they understand animals, they don't. What would you tell someone watching today that just needed a little bit of hope, and might be like, well, how do you even get through something like a really big health challenge? How do you even keep your joy? How?
You pray.
Good answer.
Thank you. I've been practicing that one. I studied for this test. I get an A+. Thank you very much. Yes. But you have to dig down deep and decide, number one, to surrender to God, and number two, God's will be done.
Mm-hmm.
And soak up the joy around you because it's there. And I learned so much going through this process that gave me more empathy towards the people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, a lot of people don't know that after a transplant,
Mm-hmm.
they do hard chemo to reset your body. Who knew?
Wow.
Yeah. They came in and said chemo, and I was like, wrong floor, wrong door. What are you doing? Go away. And they're like, no, this is necessary. And it was the bad stuff where the nurse sat with you the entire time.
Wow.
You didn't get up, breathe, move, that she wasn't right there. And it gave me a whole new perspective of what chemo patients go through.
And you chose joy.
I chose joy.
And joy is a choice.
It is.
Even on the days when you don't feel like it, it's always the right choice. You know?
Well, and my mom had a hard time because I went home to convalesce at her home. And the first day I was home, I got up and I got ready, and her house is set up so that the bedrooms are on one end of the house and the living areas are on the other. And so I hobble my way in. My knee quit working during all of this. So I'm on a walker and I'm not supposed to be using any upper body. And I was a real pretty picture. And so I hobble in and I get in and I sit down and I'm done. I made it from one end of the house to the other. And she walks in and she just gasped. And I'm like, what's wrong? What'd I do? And she's like, you've got your hair and makeup done and you're dressed. I said, I've been in my pajamas, or not even my own pajamas, for the last 3 months. Yes, I'm dressed.
That's so you, Shirley. That's so you. Yeah, that's you. So.
And she's like, okay.
You are an example of that joy chooser. And I kind of want to conclude, but I want to mention Trio.
Yes.
To end our little talk, we have to talk about Trio. Can you tell us what Trio is?
Yes. Trio is Transplant Recipients International Organization, and we have just opened the Oklahoma chapter, and we welcome anyone.
What is this?
What it is it is a group of people that are mentoring and providing information. It's a resource for transplant patients because both pre and post-op patients have no real resources for what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, what you're going to go through, what your caregiver's going to go through. We have, instead of a support group, we have a peer-to-peer group. And so we get in there and we talk about all the weird medicines we have to take and the ones we hate and the ones that we think need to be improved. And we help people through the fears that come with it. And we're really there to encourage the transplant community because you're thrown this book. I mean, you get a notebook, a binder that you would get in college, and they hand it to you and they go, here's everything you need to know.
That is so neat that's available. And you're very involved in that.
Absolutely.
And I want to just thank you for you're one of my superheroes.
I love you.
You inspire me every day. And I'm just in awe that you've had a heart transplant. And you blow my mind.
Well, thank you.
And so I just want to encourage everyone, you might have a family member that's going through a transplant. You might need resources. There might be an area that animal therapy, you may have a question. And I just want to encourage everyone to go to our website, lisabain.com. We're going to have links set up to Trio. And we'll also have some animal therapy websites. Animal therapy, is my heart and my passion. yours as well.
Oh, yeah.
And
and I'm a tester or observer.
That's
too.
right. That's right. For those of you who are asking me all of those questions of how do I have a therapy dog and train one, we'll be able to answer them.
Yes.
So make sure you go to our website, and if you need to get in touch with Shirley for any reason,
Yes.
she will be happy to answer any questions, and we will have all of that information at lisabain.com.
Yes.
Shirley, I love you. I'm so thankful that you shared with us. I did not know some of these parts of your story. So until we meet again, thank you for joining us at Treasure Talks, and you're a rock star. Thank you for joining us at Treasure Talks, and don't forget to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can make sure to get the newest content and videos, and visit our website, lisabain.com.